Lock It Down Sports. I'm Locke Hoover. Thank you for joining me today. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media. You can also find me all over wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, all the big ones. We're there. Check me out. Lock It Down Sports. Got a lot to get into tonight. I always do. We're going to get into playoff committee. Did they get it right? Did they get it wrong? Were there any problems? Little Neon, Dion, MLB spending, free agency. But first, let me tell you about my friends from Stream Studio. It is a multi-camera live streaming platform that allows you to go live in less than 1 minute. It is a video podcasting live webinar streaming platform that allows you to stream to multiple platforms at the same time. Check it out. Give it a try. I think you'll enjoy it because I definitely have. Now, the playoff committee, in the end, how it shaked out, they got it right. They got the final four correct. Georgia number 1, no doubt. No doubt in my mind. Michigan number 2, no doubt about it in my mind. The fun part here is number 3 and number 4. Yeah, it's the two, fitting best teams that are in the playoff, I believe. But it's the ranking part that to me is the very interesting sort of layout that they decided to do. They put TCU at 3 and Ohio State at 4. I think very much so they did that to avoid a rematch. Obviously, we already saw what Ohio State and Michigan turned out to be, how it was the game where Michigan just steamrolled Ohio State. Yes, two good teams, make adjustments, could be a different ball game. It's hard to beat a good team twice, of course. I know all that. But we've already seen that matchup on the field one time. So they want to avoid, in my opinion, to seeing it twice, if at all costs. If they're both in the championship, okay, that's fine. But they've already seen it once. They don't want to see it twice. And I get it. And we've seen that time and time again when it comes to the Alabama and the Clemson matchups before. The Georgia, the Alabama matchups. However we want to slice it, let's put them on opposite ends of the bracket. Yeah, of course, there's been times when it's been 1-4 and that's what happened. They've played, but if they have a suspect of a reason, they can put them there. Now, they got the top 4 team draw, like I said, but the other part, a little bit squirrely. I mean, I've gone over this and mentioned it a time or two. No way in their right mind should Alabama have been in front of Tennessee. It just makes the community look dumb, lazy, and outside of the name Alabama. Why are they in front of Tennessee? It didn't really matter. They were both of them going to New Year's 6-day bowls. So that part didn't really matter, but just the premise of the system of what can be a very much a disaster and problematic it is, which is you wonder why people get angry and they don't trust the system. Case in point just happened. This playoffs rankings, the final rankings. Yes, it wasn't for the top 4. They got those right. But the 5 to 6, how do you screw that up? Really? It's clear as day evidence about who's a better team. We've seen on the field, all the metrics, all the numbers, everything that qualifies for someone to be ranked ahead of another team, thrown out the door because they said Alabama on the jerseys. That just shows you they're speculative about Tennessee as well. Right now, the national media and everybody in the media, the rankings, the coaches, the ADs, they don't respect Tennessee right now. You got to earn that respect and get the benefit of the doubt, like Alabama. Tennessee doesn't have that right now. You don't have the benefit of the doubt. They've got to earn it, keep playing well these next few seasons. You've earned it. You'll earn it. But until then, this is how you're going to treat it. I don't see it changing. Just the way it is and the fact of the matter right now. Now, I love this for Colorado. I mean, Deion going to Colorado, I touched on a lot in my last podcast. You can go check it out, telling you why it is a great fit for both Deion and University of Colorado. Now, the interesting thing about this whole deal has come out and reported now. It's the most Colorado's ever spent on a head coach. For Deion Sanders, the most they've ever spent on a head coach. And also, very interesting, there's been reports out there that says we don't have the money right now to pay Deion Sanders, but that's coming and we're going to get it. That to me is very telling of we can go and get this money, whether it's an IL, whether it's boosters are going to pony up. They're very confident that they're going to get that money, which, I mean, that's good. I don't know the facility situation and that sort of thing in Boulder. I don't. I don't know where. I would venture to guess it ranks in the lower end of facilities in the Pac-12. That would just be venture to guess. I don't know. I'm just based on everything you hear and the results and struggling to get recruits at Colorado. Yeah, you have to win and play well, at least be bowl eligible. But facilities, if I'm comparing two schools and they're both even, which one's got better facilities, it's an easy call which direction I'm going. Especially when you're trying to compete at a Power 5 level in a Power 5 conference. So Colorado's going to be fascinating. They've already gotten probably more pub and been talked about now than they had in probably the last 5 years, without a doubt. So I'm intrigued. Like I said last week, I believe, I might actually watch a Colorado game because they're going to get some airtime and some TV time with Deion Sanders on the sideline. Now it's going to become him building his staff and what he does with his staff, because I don't think there's going to be an issue with him recruiting at all. I don't think that's going to be a problem for him to go out and recruit. He's basically come out and said, I'm going to go get some dudes in the portal, Colorado football team. He told him that. So be ready, and you might have to transfer out of here. So he was open and honest to them from the jump of, hey, things might change here. And I'm not afraid to change because I'm a winner. I've never lost anywhere. I've been successful with everything I've done. It's big for Deion. He can build something in Colorado and he can go somewhere else, or he can build something in Colorado and he can make Colorado a cool, fun, happening, popping place. So there's not many negatives and downsides at all. Now, Major League Baseball just finished the winter meetings, and boy, oh boy, at the spending that has taken place. I mean, we're going to get into the shortstop deals with both Trey Turner and Xander Bogaerts here later on in the show. But William Castro, catcher going to the Cardinals. Fits in nice, little 5-year deal there. Jacob deGrom, 5-year deal, which is a lot. We'll get into little Jacob deGrom here later. Going to the Rangers for $185. I mean, that's a lot of change for a pitcher that's been on the IL now a lot in his last 2 years. And you get Verlander going to the Mets on a 2-year deal, and he's not even the highest paid average annual value of contract. He's behind Max Scherzer. So they've got an older rotation, but still two guys that are really good. And that's going to be a tough New York rotation with Verlander, with Scherzer, with Chris Bassett still there. And then however they shakes out their last two starters. Oh, they got Carlos Carrasco as well. So that's your top four. Pretty strong, sturdy rotation. And then what are you doing to do with five? Do you make another move there for the New York Mets when it comes to just the rotation alone? The NL East is going to be a tough division. It's going to be another tough division based on what the Mets have done. The Braves are still right there. Oh, yeah, they've won the last 4 or 5 NL East championships. And Philly's spending money. They've never been afraid to spend money like they did with Trey Turner to go along with their offense. I think they're still lagging in the pitching department, and I don't see Phillies are still that second, maybe third team in the division. You see they can get the playoffs with that expanded wild card, make a run, but I think division-wise they're still a little bit lagging right now. Of course, there's still all the rest of the offseason to go, so there's still a lot of moves that can and will probably be made. Now, Texas. They're in the state of Texas. How about that? TCU, Kansas State squared off in the Big 12 championship game. And I watched this game from start to finish to see how it was going to shake out, what the outcome was, how it turned out for TCU squaring up against Kansas. And Kansas State really was able to do what they want on offense through 3 quarters. Very balanced, what they were able to do, what they wanted to, what they were comfortable doing. To me, because it was a back and forth game, obviously. To me, what really kind of changed the momentum was that Kansas State punt fumble. That punt fumble really changed, to me, the series of events that took place. So after that, TCU scored. KSU was up 3, went 3 and out. Then TCU turned right back around and was driving down the field. But then they had that turnover in the end zone to start the 4th quarter. That kind of leveled out that turnover battle right there. Then you turn right around. They easily drove down the field to score a touchdown. So that's kind of how it all shook out. Back and forth game. They went into overtime. I did not like this from TCU. To go for it on 4th and goal in overtime, that's basically giving Kansas State the game if they don't score. Obviously, they didn't. And all Kansas State had to do was kick a field goal and win. Yeah, Kansas State's not getting the playoff, but that's risky business for TCU in that situation. Why don't you, yes, you're at the inch line, but it's at the point where it's almost a must score. You have to score. And they didn't. And it gave the way to Kansas State. Fortunately for TCU, they still got in the playoffs, so they're good. But I didn't like the decision. Ultimately didn't affect them. But I don't think they'd be doing something like that in the playoffs. Now, this was a snooze fest. Absolute snooze fest in LSU and Georgia. Georgia's ready to go. They weren't caught sleeping offensively against LSU. Know who was caught sleeping, though? LSU was caught sleeping on that very first drive. The blocked field goal, Georgia's like, all right, we're just going to pick this up, return it 95 yards for the touchdown. Set the tone of what was to come. Not a surprise to me, but it's like, okay, if you're LSU, you got to minimize any mistakes or results that could completely put you out of the game and make yourself something very costly. I mean, first quarter, you just defense looked sharp early on. That 14-play drive that ended in LSU blocked field goal. Yeah, LSU had a quick response on that touchdown drive, but then after that, I almost fell asleep during the game. No, I obviously didn't, but it's kind of the thought of this game's a wrap, and it was. There wasn't any, to me, concern with, ooh, what's going to happen here? Can LSU get back in this game? Is there a chance here? No, not at all. I mean, Georgia's offense did not look lackluster. It's a big game. They're trying to solidify their slot as the number one seed in the playoffs. And it's the SEC championship game. I don't know how you can't get up for the SEC championship game. I mean, to me, the game was over at halftime, and they could run the ball whenever they wanted. And that doesn't surprise me. It's almost like them, okay, time to flip a switch. We did it game one against Oregon. We did it against our second big game against Tennessee. Time to turn us on a switch for our third big game. We know we're going to have to battle for against LSU. That's how it was. The only thing that was a bit of a concern, and I'm sure Kirby's going to be hammering this for the next month, was the passing yards that they gave up. 502 passing yards LSU had on that Georgia defense. Yes, I know there were some backups in for Georgia, but still, that's just that one little thing Kirby can hammer on them to stay focused. Play all four quarters. Don't let up. Finish the drill. And that's what a team like Georgia needs. And that one little thing Kirby can drive into their heads. So it'll be Georgia's preparing for the postseason now. And I think they're in a good spot and got plenty of time to prepare. Let me tell you about my friends at Stream Studio. It's a multi-camera live streaming platform that allows you to go live in less than 1 minute. You can do video podcasts and live webinar streaming platform. All that in one singular platform. Check it out. I think you might enjoy it. Now, to me, this was the most head-scratching game result turn of events was the Clemson North Carolina game. I mean, the game itself wasn't good. LSU, the other Tigers of Clemson were in control, and for basically the entire game and won handily. That's not the takeaway in the story of this for me. The interesting storyline for me was DJ only playing two series, and he struggled. Didn't play any more meaningful snaps. So, what does Dabo do? He took his backup, who's played some, and Cade Klubnik, hopefully I pronounced that right, came in and balled the entire game. I mean, you've seen it all throughout the season at Clemson, where he'd usually come in for one, maybe two drives when DJ was struggling. No, he came in and won that football game for him. So you have your backup who's played sparingly when DJ's played bad, and then you have DJ who was his starter for the entire season. Obviously, we've already seen what's transpired with who's your quarterback going forward. With DJ now in the portal, it becomes clear cut who's going forward for the bowl game and going into next year. But here's my question with Dabo Swinney. Why didn't Cade play against South Carolina. Why? Why? I don't know. Remember, you are Clemson. You get the benefit of the doubt for what you've done the last 5, 6, 7 years and how everything turned out with TCU losing. Opens up a spot. With Ohio State slipping in there. Why did you waste your season if you're Clemson? If they win against South Carolina, they're probably in the playoff. Whether it's a 3 or 4 seed, it doesn't matter. You're in. You got this hot quarterback who's played well. He's feeling high. He's feeling good. To me, it feels like Dabo did not want to pull a Nick Saban when he went out and said, "Know what? Tua is my starting quarterback over Jalen Hurts." He didn't want to do it, and that cost them. The other thing with this whole Clemson wasted of a season to me is you were probably going to lose one of your quarterbacks, whether it's Cade or whether it's DJ, this season in the portal. Why not go for it, especially since you've already pulled DJ in a handful of games, and see if you can go get a playoff spot with Cade in there? Why not? I don't understand that. I know Clemson faithful are furious about that. Some are, and I don't blame them. I would be really upset about that too. So it's really head scratching to me, and I don't know. I don't have any answers. I don't know. I got nothing. So Clemson's gonna have to settle for the Orange Bowl against Tennessee. Yeah, still a good season. New Year's Six Bowl. But when you're right there and you're mad and upset about the decisions your head coach made, I'd be pissed if I was a Clemson fan. I would. And I completely understand why they are mad about it. Something I wouldn't be mad about was if I was Trey Turner. I'd be pretty happy with my 11-year, $300 million contract to go to Philly. Best shortstops off the board, without a doubt. The A primo shortstop on the board. Whatever I signed him to 11 years? No. At 29, where he can run, and some of that, as he gets older, his legs are going to go from him. They're going to lose. You're going to lose some of his legs, his speed. That's a lot of value to him. And 11-year deal. It's going to be probably an issue on the back end. Yeah, you're going to be able to DH him some when he gets older. But that back end of the deal could get a little squirrely for him, for the Phillies, that is. I mean, they got Bryce locked up long term. Obviously, now Trey Turner. They got Remuto locked up for long term as well. And that Nick Castellanos, what is he? Is he they signed a 4-year deal? 4 or 5, so he's got 3 or 4 left. To go back and double check on that. But, yeah, so they've locked some of the guys up long term. You got Zach Wheeler as well. Signed that long-term deal a few years ago. So, I mean, it's not surprising Philly's spending money, but that's a lot of change. And that really sets the market to me for the shortstops of where all 4 of them fall. To me, I believe the pecking order as far as best shortstops available or were available, Carlos Correa to me is the second best shortstop on the board. Then Xander Bogaerts, then Dansby coming as the 4th shortstop option on the board. Here's why I believe Correa is the second best shortstop, although he has had some injury history, which would scare me a little bit when you compare him to Xander Bogaerts. Comparing both Bogaerts and Correa over the course of their career, Correa has more homers, has a higher OPS, on base percentage, slugging percentage, and if you want to get into analytics, higher WAR. And he's second an average compared to all three of them, with Bogarts being number one. He's also 2 years younger than Xander and 1 year younger than Dansby. Opinion wise, I would think Bogart should be off the board third, Dansby fourth. Well, that changed a little bit today, or shall I say late last night, when Bogart signed an 11-year, $280 million deal with the Padres. That surprised me. I didn't expect him to get that. Only $20 million less than Trey Turner. Bogart's a good player, no doubt. Pure hitter, good average. He's going to get on base, good OPS, decent pop, and he can hit. I get all that. But for that much, to me, I feel like a big overpay in that market. Now, it makes me wonder what Correa gets, especially after everything I just said. Does he get 290? Is that what we're talking with Correa right now? Or does he want a shorter term, higher salary value? I would think he would want to be locked up at this point. He's 27. 10-year deal he's hoping maybe. And I don't blame him after what he just saw. Look, Trey Turner's got 11 years. Xander just got 11. I'm younger than both of them. And then you get to Dansby Swanson, and my oh my, how this has turned into something really great for him. He's going to get a lot more money now than I ever expected him to get. Interesting enough, the Braves turned down a 6-year, $140 million counter offer from Dansby Swanson. They turned that down, which I don't blame them. When I'm after the other three, I would have done the exact same thing. Not expecting Trey to get 300 and Xander to get 280. No way in the world would I have expected any of that. So it'll be interesting. I'm really curious to see what Dansby gets now. At this point, I think he's going to get in the twos. He'll get 2, maybe 200, maybe 210, 215 at this point if we're looking at what these other three shortstops, what the other two have gotten, what Correa is going to get. I never would have said Dansby's, a $200 million player. No way. Yes, last year was his best year. Outside of that, he's been a good career, average Major League Baseball shortstop, which is fine. It's okay. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. But it is really blown me away how the market's been set. Even like the second one to me. I mean, usually it's always the top guy sets it and then everyone kind of slots in. Xander basically right there, neck and neck with Trey Turner. It's a good spot for Dansby to be in right now, especially coming in as the fourth, probably best shortstop available as a free agent on the market. He's going to get paid a lot more than I think a lot of people expected. And speaking of expectations, I think there's going to be a pretty high expectation for the Cleveland Browns now as a whole moving forward with Deshaun Watson back. Yeah, he looked like a quarterback that hadn't played in 2 years on Sunday. He did, which makes sense because he hadn't. The speed of the game in the NFL is just at another level, and you saw that on Sunday. Absolutely saw that. But some of the throws, he's able to make the reads. That wasn't the issue. It was the speed of the game that got him. And that's not a surprise. That's going to happen even for a good as a player as Deshaun Watson is. It happened. But here's what I think. This is what the Kevin Stefanski's offense is going to be judged on these next 6 games. Maybe not in the playoffs. Browns have dug themselves in a hole to get to the playoffs. They had some opportunities they squandered. Potential Falcons win. They could potentially be the Falcons. The Jets game. That's 2 right there. That's either neither here nor there now at this point. But they've got all the pieces now to make this offense turn. They got a star quarterback. They've got Amari Cooper on the outside. They got a solid tight end in Njoku. Say what you want about him. He's okay. He's solid. You got 2 running backs in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. That's all the makings for a good offense. And Stefanski is supposed to be an offensive guy. So he's going to have a chance to show what his offense is really about when he's got a comfortable, really good quarterback. You saw what he was able to do with Baker Mayfield, who's a solid, competent quarterback. But now you've got a star and a talent, Deshaun Watson. You're in a good spot. And I believe if he struggles this year, towards the end of this year, and maybe the beginning of next year, I think he could be gone. So angry fans, owner, look, you're supposed to be this offensive guy. I've given you a chance and some time now. With this quarterback, I just spent over $200 million in guaranteed money for. Show me why we brought you in here. So that's going to be something to watch the rest of this season in Cleveland, and also early next year when you get a full training camp with Deshaun there. Yes, you had a full one last year, but not really, because you know what you had coming up with the suspension. You get a full training camp to grow, to build, to mold it all in. And that's where he's going to be judged and seen. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media. You've been listening to Lock It Down Sports. Look forward to talking to you next week.